This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Hello, today I have with me Wook Chung. He is the Chief Product Officer of Varo Bank. Wook, it's so good to see you again. And I'd just love to start by saying congratulations on being one of our finalists for the top CPO award this year. How does it feel to be one of the best CPOs in the world?
I'm really honored to be nominated. Whether it's a nomination or not, we all CPOs out there in the world always strive to build amazing products that deliver more value to customers, and that's what I do every single day. So if that is recognized in some shape and form, I am truly humbled and honored.
Yeah, isn't that true? The best, sincerest form of flattery in our role is, come buy more of my product, right? I love that. Well, congratulations, and it's very well deserved, and everybody else will know that by the time we're done with our chat here. So before we kind of dive into a few of the questions, why don't we spend, I'm going to give you a little clock, 60 seconds. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Varo Bank specifically, and your role there.
Sure. So I have been in the product management career track all my life. I've built many products, consumer facing as well as ad tech and media facing across companies like Google, Meta, Twitter, Samsung, and so forth. Varo Bank is a new type of bank. We're a fintech, but we're actually also a real bank. And so the promise here is, how do we reinvent the banking industry, starting from the banking core stack, all the way to card rails, all the way to the user experience and how people interact with money every single day. It is a very, very difficult industry to innovate in because of regulatory reasons, but also at the same time, it is an important journey because it's people's lives, it's people's money. And so everybody holds their money near and dear to their hearts and what they do with it. And to truly build a daily product that helps people get ahead and do better with their money is exciting for me. And yes, there are hurdles to cross. There are discussions to be had, whether it's with legal compliance, whether it's with engagement or growth, or with profitability and contribution margins. All those balancing acts somewhat come together back into the role I have at Varo, where I currently, run the product team, but also I have marketing team and design team that roll into me at Varo because we brought those functions together to better communicate and better sort of form this engagement growth curve that we'd like to see from our products.
Yeah, fantastic. Working in a regulated industry has a lot of guardrails around it, and I know that your work history has kind of moved back and forth, but I would just love your perspective on what it's like being a leader in an industry that is regulated.
Yep. A lot of I've seen, and even I used to be part of the group of folks that used to think, oh my God, regulations, so it's going to be so slow and whatnot. Uh, yes, there is some truth to that. And there is a tax to pay on what I call it building it right. However, I really do think that certain industries owe it to the customers and the world to build it right. We have to take our time, build it right, but it doesn't mean that the spirit of vision of innovation and changing the world disappears. Money, healthcare, perhaps anything that deals with human lives, all of those industries are regulated for, in my opinion, a really good reason. And what's really been amazing at, especially in the financial industry, is that the OCC and the other regulatory bodies actually also want to talk to us because we're at the forefront of pushing the existing regulations because they were created 20, 30, decades ago. And sometimes they're not relevant for today's digital society. So it's really fun to actually work with the regulators to really push the boundaries forward. And trust me, like all the regulators are customers as well, right? They know they want to see a better product that is done right. So I kind of consider the tax we pay, the considerations we put in, the time it takes to bake as built right. And sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah. I love that perspective because as product leaders, our energy goes into building the right product for the right reason and doing it in an ethical and meaningful way. And I really love your lens that says they're there because they need to be there, and I'll fill in the blank that says I would do it this way anyway, and I love that. However, it could slow down innovation. Does that ever frustrate you, or are you leveraging the relationships now with the regulators to actually just change the rules?
I wouldn't say it necessarily slows us down. It allows us to look at it from a different perspective sometimes.
Mm,
And it's very, very exciting and easy to, or easy is not the right word. It's very exciting and straightforward to build an engaging experience. But for example, confusing the users with balances just for engagement and excitement is just not kosher. And when you are in a non-regulated industry, let's say it was a gaming industry with coins falling from every spin of the roulette or something, you can give that facade that you're winning. In a regulated industry, you can't. But it again does not mean that we don't innovate. And so one of the amazing things that folks at Varo and we come to work every day with this mindset is that if we don't innovate, the industry's not going to move. And I genuinely mean that. We always have a healthy dialogue with our legal and compliance teams, as well as our regulatory sort of examiners, uh, to really test out what does it mean to build and issue credit and build a bank and issue credit for some of the underbanked, underserved people.
yeah.
What does that mean, right? And just as much as big banks and traditional banks serve potentially some of the wealthier customers that have a better profit margin, when you kind of really redo the equations with the efficiencies that you drive through technology and AI, it opens up an opportunity to serve this customer base in a very cost efficient way, which means that we're allowed to provide access to our services as access to credit and so on and so forth. Uh, that was simply just not possible, or well, it was possible but not financially feasible in a
Yeah.
sustainable way. So we're really striving for hitting that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah. I love that explanation. Also super inspired by your mission on the underserved. I like, do any examples kind of come to mind on how you've been able to, innovate even in light of, like, bring it to life for us. Would love to
Mhm.
hear a story.
Yep. Uh, I'm going to try my best not to spill our roadmap here,
Oh,
but
definitely don't do that.
but
Have to
let's
put it
take a look.
out.
Let's take a look at what a paycheck to paycheck customer goes through on a given month. Your paycheck comes in and it starts to drain, and the first things to drain are your rent, and your utilities and bills, and then food, and so on and so forth. And by the time that you're near zero, your next paycheck comes in and the triangular structure continues. And what we want to do is we want to do two things for the customer. One is sometimes the triangular dip has to go below zero. But this does not mean that they're a bad customer or they're a bad individual. Sometimes your car broke down, you couldn't predict it, and you needed that extra $200. But of course, then you're going to maybe perhaps in the next paycheck eat less or eat out less to make up for that 200. But who's going to fix the car right now? And so our loan products are designed to be bridging those gaps. But the way that we do it is we don't do it like a classical loan. We use your behaviors to build up the trust relationships and underwrite you based on that. So that if you've been a consistent, customer doing consistent activities on our platform, we underwrite you based on that, or at least that's a factor into our underwriting. And when it is time for you to need the money, it's literally less than 2 seconds and you have that in your bank account. It's
Wow.
almost like a savings account cushion that, and I really encourage all Americans to have some level of cushion, right? They always say 2 months worth of your salary or whatnot needs to be in the cushion. But unfortunately, only, 40, less than 43% of Americans have more than $1,000 as a cushion.
Mm.
But the cushion is so important to smoothen your life, because if you had to take out a ridiculous loan shark, kind of a predatory loan just to cover for your car fixing, you are going to wreck so many aspects of your life. And that's the reason why our loan products are innovating on how do we give credit, looking at other signals, as well as how do we design the system so that in 2 seconds, right there when you're trying to pay for your car, the money is there for you. And this is very different than a credit card that continuously encourages, or, well, companies encourage you to pay it back, but you revolve at a higher APR. It's not like that. It's for a simple fee, and you just take the money, and then the next paycheck comes in, and you pay it back.
Right.
And
Right.
so, again, it's a traditional, or it's a standard lending construct that's humanly understandable, but there's a lot of innovation that goes in to get this right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So I imagine that incorporates big data, machine learning,
Absolutely.
um, AI concepts. So,
That too. Plus, it's also, I think, you know, in a day-to-day basis, when somebody uses a checking account, they don't think of it as, oh my God, like my behaviors are gonna sort of help me build a relationship with the company. And because that concept is very rare and it doesn't happen in traditional banks, we innovate on visualizing that relationship. We show you what you have to do to keep earning our trust, as well as what you have to demonstrate. For example, if you start to hit negative balances somewhere, of course that trust will erode, and we visualize that trust level for you. So
yeah.
it's almost like we never want to pull the rug underneath you to say, oh, we don't trust you actually anymore. We want to actually nurture that relationship. And therefore, innovations are going into UX patterns that typical banks don't have. And they don't need to have that because they don't care about this.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Fascinating. I would love to shift gears a bit and talk about, as you look forward over the next year. Obviously, there's so many macro trends and things going on. Uh, how you spend your time is really, really important, especially in context of strategy and figuring out the right things, and then making sure the train stays on the track.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit, like, what are the top two or three strategic things on your list this year that you are going to carve out time for?
That, perhaps, Renee, if you ask me that question tomorrow, it might change. It's an ongoing, evolving thing. But I wanted to just take a half step back to kind of illustrate what really matters for me, and for what I think is what I am hired at Varo for. Uh, do we want to just be a small regional sized digital first bank? And the answer is no, right? Nobody at Varo is excited about that. I am not excited about that. Can we have can we really change the world in a meaningful way? That's what we're all here for. And we
Yeah.
believe that there's plenty of innovations in the banking sector and the financial sector, even if people may not feel the inefficiencies today, right? And so every time I come into work every day, we think about the grand vision of the entire stack and the entire way that the world is operating differently, hopefully with Varo products. But at the end of the day, we see these inefficiencies. So therefore, we imagine a world of that, right? And there's a couple versions of this long-term vision articulation that we have. And then my personal principle here is that everything that we do, even today, this year, this month, maybe next year, they have to be building blocks into that overarching vision.
Yeah.
If it's not a building block, then it's essentially throwaway work. You might get some small gains here and there, but everything we do must add up to a building block. So, what then ends up happening from a strategical investment perspective is that, and as we all know, we always have to look for commercials as well as the bottom line and the revenue as well. If there were two equal revenue ideas, but one was a building block towards the long-term vision versus one wasn't, then the decision is very clear. But
Yes.
it gets very difficult when there is perhaps a short-term higher revenue opportunity, but this other one is a slightly lower revenue opportunity, but definitely is a stepping stone into the vision. And that is, I think, where all CPOs grab their hairs and pull it apart, especially from a strategic investment perspective, because it's the balance of the short and the long. And for me, I need to also immediately balance that with growth as well as marketing, because these are now integral functions in how the company evolves and company operates, articulating our brand strategy and so forth. So when these things come together, like, I think one of the things that I want to definitely make sure I spend time this year is, how do you articulate a true bank that you can trust but has all the goodness of all these radical fintechs that are pushing the boundary? There's no such thing, in my opinion, right? There are other tech companies with banking charters, but they're focused on different areas. We are genuinely trying to change the way that a checking and a savings and a loan product kind of fits together into a single sort of package. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And so my inspiration comes in from, effectively, I have no fewer than 30, 40 apps that I try out on a given single day from all verticals, for example, because inspiration can come from anywhere. And also, another aspect is, when you bring all these functionalities together, it's very difficult to sort of describe what you're actually providing to the user when the user comes from a traditional banking world. So, are you trying to sell me a checking account, a credit card? What is it? And we say everything. And they're like, I don't need everything. Oh, no, hold on. Before you make that decision, hear us out. And then our sort of product and narrative plays throughout. So again, we think about Varo as a financial operating system for the everyday American, and the operating system definitely has a checking account component to it. But like I said, that we call it the advanced product, the cash advance product. That dipping thing, is that really a loan, or is that just a feature of a checking account? Does it
Right.
really matter even?
Matter,
Yeah.
right? As long as you're solving meaningful problems for customers,
Yes.
it
But
doesn't
now
matter.
the
You don't
last
office, right?
Exactly, exactly. But the last kicker there is that we want to solve the meaningful problem with regulatory compliance. So yes, it is classified as a line of credit. It is classified as a certain type of loan, and we have loan parameters that operate, and we have to meet certain leverage ratios and delinquency rates and whatnot. But like I said, that's why I'm saying we want to build it right, because we want a sustainable business and we want to do the right thing for the customer.
Yeah, well, and hopefully make money along the way, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oops, that's that one. Awesome. Great answer. And there's just, time and time management and how we spend our time as leaders is always kind of one of those like really big bucket items. Um, we have to like that's our most precious currency. Over the last year in particular, but I would say since the pandemic, the role of the chief product officer has changed immensely. It really, really evolved. A lot of that's because the world around us are evolving. A lot of that is because more traditional businesses are have to become digital or become irrelevant.
Hmm.
There's a lot of factors involved with that. So I guess I would just love your thoughts on the changes over the past few years and talk me through what you've seen and how you've adopted your style to and your approach to kind of really leverage this newfound, I want to call it power, but this newfound role that
Yeah.
is really elevated in importance in the C-suite.
So fortunately, all of my career, I've only worked on digital products. So fortunately, I didn't have to go through a physical to digital product first transformation. However, uh, especially during the pandemic, I think we have learned our lessons on what it means to activate and motivate and build things jointly, working from home, online primarily. And today, as you know, even in my company, we only do work back in the office a few days a week, right? We have a lot of time flexibility that's built into our schedules. But what that also makes it difficult is when you have that spark of idea, it's like, okay, who do I Slack, who do I Zoom with, and a lot of times that feeling is lost. Whereas if you're in the office, micro kitchen, hey Rahul, come over here, hey, check this out, what do you think? And so those sort of serendipitous sparks, I think, are really, really critical in building nonlinear products.
Hmm.
And I think since my joining at Varo, we may have had maybe three or four like step change spark ideas, and all of them happen to have been on the days that we're back at the office.
Yep.
So it's no coincidence. So to me, I think one of the roles that CPOs must now operate under is that there are tons of these sparks that are getting missed out on. And depending on the type of caliber of your team and the constituents and the stage of the product and whatnot, I really do think that CPOs should not uh, discount the effect of being in the same room together, really ideating and thinking creatively.
Yep.
Now, when this pandemic first started and everybody started working from home, everybody was like, "Yeah, it's not that bad. We've made it work." But I largely call it legacy momentum. There were momentum that was built up before you went online only, and then that continued throughout. And then
Right.
towards the second year of the pandemic, we all started to feel like, could we be doing more? And I think my biggest learning here was that activating people, even if you try to do it as a Zoom meeting with 16 people, that's way too many already. Maybe Zoom with 4 people, just truly having that conversation. I think the human mind really makes random and great connections when you are around physical presence. And so, again, how to recognize that opportunity being lost because of remote working, it has to be one of the CPO's greatest concerns in today's world. And
Yeah.
to compensate for that, obviously, I mandate my team to come in, regularly, but also at least once a quarter and once a month. We have these kind of pseudo mandatory team days, and these days, like we're just, I highly encourage folks to not do meetings, right? Just grab folks, talk to folks, whiteboard it. Literally, I was in one of the sessions with one of our creative directors the other day. Oh my god, we got like 3 hours worth of Zoom meeting done in 10 minutes.
I
And I
love
think
that.
we're both happy exiting that room.
I love that. One of the challenges on that specific issue is the role is inherently cross functional, and to have those serendipitous moments, you actually need cross functional folks that may or may not report into you be bought into that. Talk to me a little bit about how you navigate that.
Yeah. I think this is acutely an issue in pretty much every company I've been at. But and obviously the product team, in their Monday morning staff meetings, we talk about the latest strategy, what we're seeing in the data, and we quickly make some decisions. Oh, therefore we should do this, or we should, try accelerate that. Now, everybody who collaborates do not have that context. And so I think, it's really important to bring folks together in maybe three different layers. I really think that the CPO's job inherently must communicate the long-term vision and where the company's heading. There cannot be a debate about that or a doubt about that. So no matter what, kind of urge to say, hey, can you participate in this? Hey, can you help me out here? People are not forgetting that journey. But of course, long-term visions are sometimes often forgotten unless reminded, because there's always immediate needs. So that's the third layer, is obviously alignment on long-term vision. The second one is, I really think that I want to distill the sense to even the folks that are not necessarily in that room, that we're building things together. I call it the joy of building. Product managers are builders, designers are builders, engineers are builders, but our legal teams are also building. Our compliance team is also building. Our commercial team or business ops team is also building. We're enabling something, right? And I kind of broaden the definition of what building means to say, enable customers to get that value. That's building, right, in today's modern day world, right? So it's not just building and then seeing if the customer uses it. Marketing team needs to kick in. Everybody has to really, really, align around. So you build a sense of purpose, more immediate purpose together. And then finally, more of the immediate layer is when decisions are made. I really, really appreciate Slack for this, right? The next thing you know is coming out of our staff meeting, okay, what new Slack temporary channels do we have to create to get people looped in? And in this case, the same folks might show up on 4 different channels because of different context or whatnot. But you kind of really have to do that and make an effort to do that. So again, vision, making sure that you share a purpose of immediate mission and purpose, right? So that we're building together. And then finally, just communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. Um, One of the key roles of the chief product officer, especially in a growth company, is to know when to incorporate, I'm going to call it process or best practice, and then when to leave things loose. I would love to understand your, if this is a thing, your best practice superpower. Like, what's the one thing that you do and you do really well consistently from role to role to role? And how does that make you and your teams successful?
Mhm. Uh, Obviously, there's always a healthy tension between process slows us down, and then on the other side, it's a wild west chaos.
Yeah.
And I think whenever we talk about where to swing the pendulum in any type of team or group, I really think it comes to the maturity of the individuals and the team. Uh, at the end of the day, as a CPO, you cannot blame your team for not delivering. That's just not an option. You have to make it with whatever you're given. And of course, you have made some hiring decisions yourself, but not everybody's perfect, and we all understand that. And so, one of the things that I really try to sort of like establish here, at least in my internal compass, is there are folks that that are mature enough and they need the creative freedom and space, and I want to give them that. And then I kind of use process as a ensuring that the min bar is there.
Yeah.
So to me, I use process as everything has a min bar of at least X. But that min bar is very easy to cross. And I want the creative freedom to happen on the above, right? And so just a quick practice to this. In my company, I run almost all PMs and key engineering leaders and everybody. We have a process called WDR, weekly delivery review.
Mhm.
And a weekly delivery review sounds very rigid, but we cover pretty much every squad's work of sort of progress in just 1 hour. So, I mean, if we go Jira by Jira, line by line, there's no way we're going to hit it. And I also use WDR as a platform to kind of tell the troops what's the situation. Hey, we have to ship it by this week because Thanksgiving's coming. Come on, let's get it done, right? And so there's about 5-10 minutes spent on rallying the troops. And literally in about, oh, maybe another 5-10 minutes spent on the wins of the week kind of thing. What did we ship? What? And then sometimes people would spurt out, hey, we got 15% gain there. I'm like, great. So it's a great way to bring the team together. So roughly speaking, in 30 minutes, we're going through the entire project list. And so this process starts by literally saying, hey, I don't want every Jira, right? Let's talk about initiatives, right? Very, very clear and transparent on how we're going to measure the initiative and whatnot. And then each week, or everybody, the initiative owner, in this case, largely the product manager, would update the status to say, hey guys, everything's good, nothing more to be talked about, versus I need help, please help me, right? I'm blocked. And then there's everything in between. So the WDR to me is a very rigid process from a format perspective, but I do think that it's the minimum bar to keep everybody in sync at least once a week on all the progress that we're making, because we're moving super fast. Everything else, I leave it to the individual squads, the business units. They can innovate at whichever speed, but at the end of the day, we have a weekly checkpoint that we talk about this in a pretty structured format.
Wow, interesting. Really sounds like a very impactful meeting where you cover a lot in a very short period of time. Our time has gone so fast. I have so many other questions, but we're short on time. So cannot leave a conversation without talking a little bit about AI. I would love your vantage point. Obviously, it's clear that you're using machine learning and AI in your products. We're not going to touch on that at the moment, but there's been a lot of conversations around, hey, how AI may change the role of product management moving forward. And so I would love your point of view on how you see AI changing the role of product management this year. And then, fast forward 3 years from now, does it look any different?
I love this question, and makes you think. I'll start with the easiest parts, right? I think PMs, because they have to bring everybody together, there's a lot of what we call coordination work that goes in, and I'm really thankful for my EA for helping me with a bunch of those. But I also remember the times when I didn't have an EA helping me out, and it's very tough. I think that AI should be able to help PMs negotiate times with folks that have conflicts, recognize who's a must-have attendee versus not, and also AI should definitely help PMs, run meetings, take automatic notes, and send out the key points and decisions. I think that's a no-brainer, and it has to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. If you
That's a
look
lot
at,
of time, by the way, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
if we got that alone, how much time would that save a PM?
Oh my God, that would probably save a PM. I think perhaps 30-40% of the grunt work that you have to put in, right? The PM would then be able to focus on decisions, acting on the decisions, making sure that right decisions are made, and so on and so forth. I also do think,
Heaven forbid, more time in front of a customer.
yeah, that's another way to spend your time. On the long run, in 3 years, uh, maybe it's a little bit of a dystopian fiction, but there could be folks that imagine AI might be coming up with new features for you and whatnot. I personally am not bullish on that, because some of the spurts of ideas that we have. Oh, actually, in 3 years' time, I do think that there will be a way where AI can always keep monitoring what's happening in your industry, your competitors. AI can be using competitors' products, checking out patterns, whatnot. So maybe that's not even a 3-year thing. Maybe that's a 2-year thing. But in the third year mark, the ultimate question is, will AI set the direction and come up with new things to build for folks to build. And I would like to say no, that's still the territory of creativity and humanity bringing folks together. But maybe if your product is the only product out of your entire comparison set or peer set that doesn't have a particular feature, maybe AI might say, hey, you probably want to consider that. I think that's absolutely doable. I kind of describe, and I was telling this to my report the other day, I kind of said, we can never optimize our way towards the Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa was not drawn because Leonardo da Vinci was optimizing anything or looking at data. There is a certain expression of human creativity that you put down there. AI can create other pictures in Mona Lisa style, but the brushstrokes and the original painting and what it tries to wring somebody's heart, that is something that's uniquely created, in my opinion. So again, I kind of put a little bit of that art glamour and that the balance of art and science and human value and progress, that intermix. I think the CPO is so therefore so critical to strike that right balance and keep making this world a better place.
Yeah, I love that analogy of art versus science, and I've used it often myself. The another word to use is intuition. Like, how do you replace intuition? Can AI ever really do that? I don't think it can. But let's have this conversation again in 2 years, and let's
Yeah,
let's
we might be proven wrong.
exactly. Listen, look, it's been lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much for spending your time. And again, just congratulations, job well done on being a finalist.
Thank you so much, Renee.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.